On June 12, 2025, Air India Flight 171 lifted off from Ahmedabad. Exactly 34 seconds later, it crashed into a medical college hostel just over a mile from the runway. The weather was clear and the visibility was high. Between the two pilots, Captain Sumit Sabharwal and co-pilot Clive Kundar, the cockpit held over 18,000 hours of combined flight experience. The 787 Dreamliner is a global benchmark for aviation safety, yet the debris scattered across Meghaninagar accounted for more than 270 casualties. Initial public reaction often shifts toward pilot error, but the early forensic clues from the crash site contradict that assumption. No erratic maneuvers or navigational errors were recorded by air traffic control. To understand why AI-171 fell, we have to look past the actions of the pilots and begin interrogating the machine they were flying. Amateur footage of the flight reveals the first major anomaly. The landing gear remained fully deployed after takeoff. Retracting the wheels is a pilot's first priority to reduce drag and build airspeed. The same footage shows the wing flaps were fully retracted. On takeoff, these panels should be extended to increase the wing's surface area and generate lift. Without them, a 200-ton aircraft cannot sustain its climb. A final piece of audio evidence came from the cockpit itself. In a brief transmission to air traffic control, the pilot reported thrust was not achieved. The deployed gear, the retracted flaps, and the failing thrust are all symptoms of a single diagnosis: a massive power failure. A 17-year-old boy filming the plane from his roof captured a detail that explains the sudden lack of control. Protruding from the belly of the plane in that video is a small propeller-like object. This is the ram air turbine, or RAT. It is an automated emergency system that only deploys when an aircraft suffers a total power loss across both engines and all primary electrical systems. The turbine works like a windmill, requiring high airspeed and altitude to generate electricity. AI-171's data sits at the absolute bottom left of this performance curve. At only 600 feet, the plane was too low and too slow for the turbine to restore power. Investigators are pursuing two main theories for this blackout: catastrophic fuel contamination choking the engines, or a cascading failure of the electrical generators. Without power from the turbine, the pilots had less than 30 seconds of gliding time in an unresponsive aircraft. At that altitude, the crash became a mathematical certainty. The investigation into Flight 171 leads away from the crash site and back 11 years to the Boeing manufacturing line in 2014. Whistleblowers like quality manager John Barnett testified that production speeds at the Charleston factory led to severe negligence, with scrap metal and debris allegedly sealed inside the wiring of new airframes. Internal allegations suggest that management intentionally earmarked defective airframes for delivery to overseas markets like India. The specific aircraft involved in the Ahmedabad crash was delivered to Air India in early 2014, during the height of these reported production issues. The blackout over Ahmedabad was a dormant manufacturing defect, hidden behind the fuselage for over a decade before finally failing. Responsibility also falls on the operator. Air India has a documented history of exhausted crews, skipped safety audits, and falsified maintenance reports. This airframe had shown warning signs for years, including a fuel leak that forced an emergency landing in 2021. Even hours before the crash, passengers reported that the plane's internal electronics and air conditioning had failed. Modern aviation is built on layers of safety. A plane only crashes when every institutional safeguard, from the factory floor to the maintenance hangar, fails consecutively. The failure of Flight 171 didn't begin 34 seconds before impact. It began years earlier in boardrooms and assembly lines, where speed was prioritized over the integrity of the machine.